one of my doctors told me that the solution was I needed to eat more potato chips because I have low blood pressure. I need to eat more. Can you believe that? Hello, and welcome back to our series on all things sleep. Today, we are talking on a topic that affects millions of women, how hormones and perimenopause impact sleep. I am your host, Natalie Walton, the GM of BetterSleep, and with me is someone who brings a wealth of clinical expertise to this conversation, Dr. Shelby Harris. Welcome to the show, Dr. Shelby. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for having me, Natalie. It's really a pleasure to be here. So I am a clinical psychologist by training and with a subspecialty board certification in behavioral sleep medicine. And what that means is that I use evidence-based treatments to help people improve their sleep. And I work in private practice now. I'm on faculty also at Einstein Med School. And I worked in sleep centers for a long time here in New York City. And I work specifically with women. That's like my main area of practice. I wrote the Women's Guide to Overcoming Insomnia and came out in 2019 now. And that's really what I'm mostly known for when it comes to working with patients.
And Shelby, I'm really excited because you're not just an expert on this topic, but you're also an advisor to BetterSleep. And so we're so grateful to have your perspective helping guide us and our sleep app. I'm curious, what initially drew you to BetterSleep and what made you want to come on as an advisor?
I think there's not enough out there to help really target the people who are struggling with their sleep. And I think thinking about it, I love the way that you guys are wanting, with BetterSleep, is wanting to work with professionals in the field who've really seen a lot of different types of sleep problems and really use meditation, use programs to help the person who has the occasional sleep problem to really doing a deep dive into figuring out how we can all improve our sleep. And I like that mission overall.
Thank you. Well, I so appreciate that. I mean, I first learned about you many years ago. I know we've worked together in the past, but I mean, just as a woman, like my sleep struggles have just been so severe. It's like my Mount Everest. I mean, for the 5 or 6 years after my son was born, I just kept waking up in the middle of the night and I've gone to so many doctors. One of my doctors told me that the solution was I needed to eat more potato chips because I have low blood pressure. I need to eat more. Can you believe that?
In the 25 plus years I've been practicing, I've never heard that one as a sleep solution. Oh my God, that would give me heartburn. Sure.
Yeah, it turns out that this summer I discovered through using Function Health actually that I was anemic. And that is why I kept waking up every morning at 3 a.m.
Oh, you're anemic. Oh my gosh. So the potato chips weren't exactly solving the problem.
They were solving the problem. And then I did an iron transfusion. And just like that, within a couple of weeks, I was like, I got a whole new lease on life at age 40.
Yeah. It makes a big difference. There are a lot of women. I have restless leg myself, and I have low iron. I supplement and have tried transfusions or iron infusions, and it really can make a big difference for a lot of people.
Yeah. But I mean, that's why I'm grateful for people like yourself. And I said, we need to get specialists on board like Dr. Shelby that can actually speak to women and they're not prescribing potato chips.
I'm not going to look at a potato chip the same ever again. That's for sure.
Yes. I didn't know it came with a prescription, but I yeah. I mean, I know that there's so many of our listeners are struggling with similar challenges. I mean, this is really a pervasive problem. And I'm curious, what is one sleep pattern that you see over and over again in women in their late 30s, their 40s, and even their 50s?
So in their late 30s, it's an interesting time frame, right? So you were talking about when you had your son and then having some trouble sleeping. It's an interesting mix because a lot of women, myself included, are having kids later in their 30s, sometimes even in their 40s or even later. And at that time, you can still have a baby, but you can also still be going through perimenopause symptoms as well. It's a real storm. So what I see is some people in their 30s that are starting to go through perimenopause, and or they're postpartum, and they're just noticing that their sleep is becoming lighter. So they'll notice that I hear it every day. Like, why is it I always wake up at 3 in the morning? Like it's a 2 or 3 in the morning issue. Some people will notice that they just can't turn their brain off at the beginning of the night. That's another really big thing. And I see that get worse. And then when you start moving into your 40s and your 50s, there can be more of those middle of the night awakenings and struggling to get back to sleep, or early morning awakenings. You have more of the risks of hot flashes, night sweats can be a really big issue for some people. And then we'll also see some of the other bigger issues, especially into the 40s and 50s. We'll see some snoring, even very mild. You might not even notice it, pauses in breathing. So we see an increase in sleep apnea very commonly with the hormonal shifts. And because of hormonal changes and anemia, we see a lot of restless leg issues. So a lot of women will say, I'm really antsy. I can't like calm my body down. My legs are moving so much at bedtime. I can't relax. And it's often restless leg that's going on.
Oh, that's so insightful. I can relate to all of that. I had sleep apnea in pregnancy.
Yep.
And there was really nothing. My doctor said there's nothing you can do about it because by the time you can get treated, it's too late.
And that's a problem with the system, right? It takes so long to get evaluated and get treated. Like it would be good if we could actually catch this in earlier in women to help them get better sleep for everyone all around. But yeah, it's a problem in our society.
What are some of the most common nighttime frustrations you hear? Like the ones that women don't often talk about. I mean, I didn't really want to talk about my sleep apnea that I snore in my third trimester.
So common, right? I think that's one that people don't ever really talk about. And as a result, it gets missed all the time. And so there's something about it, especially with women, talking about your sleep problems is it's a lot of women do it, but they do it in a way where it's like, oh, I wake up at 3 in the morning and I just can't turn my brain off. And they're like, a lot of women will talk about it together because it's a common issue. So that's really common. But then sometimes one of the reasons why people have lighter sleep or broken sleep is because of like the snoring, and people don't talk about that, or not even snoring, just like apnea, however it's presenting. And with women, it's just that feeling of being tired but not necessarily sleepy. And then there's this like idea in our society that we don't talk about enough of like, oh, well, it's supposed to be like, this is kind of what life's going to look like when you hit perimenopause and menopause. It's meant to be like, you're going to be tired. You're not going to have good sleep. And I challenge people to say, okay, well, maybe, it doesn't have to be that way. Maybe there are things that we can do to target whatever it is that's going on with your sleep. But the restless leg, the apnea stuff, also the feeling very lonely at night, women don't talk about enough either. That they're
Mm.
stressed and they're feeling really lonely, and then they're getting up. And sometimes people are doing a lot of things in the middle of the night too. Like they're trying to take care of whatever has to be done at home, any chores at home or work or whatever, because there's no other time in the day. So women are stressed, and it's impacting their sleep in many areas.
It's a lot. It is a lot. Can you help me understand, like, what is a simple, relatable way to describe what's happening inside of the body during these nighttime disruptions?
Yeah. So especially, I mean, it can happen even when you're adolescents, you're a younger adult, when you're about to get your period, we notice that there's sharp drops in estrogen. And what we see, especially when you start to move, and even in postpartum, right, there's a lot of fluctuating hormones. Things are not leveling out for a while, especially though in like perimenopause, that phase of transition, there's a lot of sharp drop, mostly drops in estrogen and progesterone. And estrogen is really important for sleep in general, but it's really important for like body temperature regulation, your sleep timing regulation. It's really important for helping with mitigate hot flashes. And so if your body isn't able to regulate its temperature very well, guess what? You can start having very warm, hot flash, all that because of these drops in estrogen. And then progesterone is the other thing that we see change over time. And the progesterone, less progesterone can, for some people, progesterone in itself is a very calming hormone. So it's a very sleep-inducing, calming hormone. So that actually helps people sleep as well. And that's why we see before people are about to get their period and there's these drops, we'll see some women will say, I have horrible insomnia before, I get my period. And then it gets better once I get my period. Same thing with perimenopause as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot going on there. Does it ever get better? Like, at what point, do we have anything to look forward to?
That's a great question. I mean, it can you there are things that we can do to improve it. So if you're not happy with your quality of sleep, talk with a specialist, try to figure out, are there things that we can do? Are there apps to help improve my sleep? Are there doctors I need to talk with about any sort of hormone or apnea, whatever it might be? But there are things that can be done. Sometimes for some women, though, they notice that once they hit menopause, so it's the cessation of having their period for a full year, they'll notice that things even out. Doesn't always happen, though. So it's hard to say yes or no that it will get better, but for many people, it starts evening out.
One of the things for me, and maybe this is like where I am in my life,
Yeah.
I have a 5-year-old, I'm running a company, I feel like, taking out the trash. It feels like all of a sudden my brain and my body, they suddenly feel wired, but tired. And even on nights like when women feel completely exhausted, I mean, there's just like this very complex. And so I think really my question is like, if this almost feels like a sudden shift, as it
Yes.
did a couple of years ago. And I'm wondering if you have like any thoughts as to like why that is.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm of three different areas. So there's the hormonal shifts, like we were just talking about, right? Sometimes you're having less of that kind of calming hormone that's coming from the progesterone. You also might have more we also find that sometimes you can have more anxiety too, more stress, more anxiety in women. And then finally, the other big thing that doesn't get talked about enough is the social demands. So women, like I'm saying, like they'll have babies later in life and they're also further along in their career a lot of the times. And they have parents who are aging. And then there's, when you get home from work, you stop working, everything's on a phone, nothing stops. So there's a difference between fatigue and sleepiness. Fatigue is the feeling of I have no energy. I'm
Mm,
exhausted, which is what I would argue many, many women, including myself, sometimes feel a lot of the times. A lot of the time, sleepiness, though, is the irrepressible need for sleep. And so, what most people are responding to when they're going to bed is that tired but wired. So, you have no energy, but you're not necessarily sleepy because you're revved up from all the other stuff that we were talking about, whether it's stress, anxiety, your hormones not helping you to calm down.
like, I mean, let's talk more about like the fix because
Yeah.
I think that's why people are tuning in is like, how do we get better?
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, what is a small bedtime ritual that helps calm the nervous system and help support sleep during hormonal changes?
I think one of the best things that people can do is create some sort of a buffer between the day and night. And that can be really hard for a lot of people to do. I mean, it took a lot for me and I'm not perfect with it every day by any means, but I was one of those people for a long time that had to have everything like kind of that I could wrapped up in a bow before I would go to bed at night. So it would be okay. I use the example in my book, but it's like the dishes. Like it used to drive me mad if the dishes were in the sink when I went to bed at night. I've learned to let the dishes sit. Let some stuff sit so that I can prioritize 5 minutes at the beginning to just have a buffer, whether it's meditate, whether it's do some stretching, something where I'm not go, 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 and I'm so exhausted I crash in bed. And then if you can't find 5 minutes, we need to have a bigger discussion about that. And some people will say they don't even have that. Then I'd say 5 minutes, now make it 10. And if you
Mhm.
can slowly increase that time of a buffer to just wind your body down and land the plane slowly as opposed to just turning the switch off, it will be beneficial overall.
That is really good advice. What's one thing that you want every woman to know about reclaiming her sleep during perimenopause?
That there is no one size fits all.
Okay.
And despite what you hear in the messaging that's out there of like, this is the perfect treatment, and this worked amazing for me and all my patients, there is not a one size fits all. So there are different treatments with medication, without medication. We love to use non-medication approaches when possible. It's just don't accept poor sleep as what it should be moving forward. And talk with your doctor. If your doctor's not listening to you, then find someone that will actually listen and give you the different options, because you shouldn't just accept feeling this way from here on in.
Yeah. No, I think that is just such good advice. And I know that sometimes it's like frustrating. You go to one doctor or another doctor, but like, I guess in my experience, experience of going to multiple doctors and getting my potato chip prescription, there actually
Yeah.
is like there's someone that will listen to you and that can help you.
Yeah. Like, I'm curious, do you mind if I ask you quickly, like, what did you think when they said potato chips? Did you like
I
think
was
like,
just like,
try
I mean,
it?
I was able to draw the connection between potato chips and low blood sugar, but I was like, I really think that there has to be more. But if I'm being really honest, it's just like
Yeah.
after you go to a doctor, you find the energy, you book the time to go, you pay for
Yeah.
it, and you hear an answer like that, you're like, okay, I'm so desperate. I'm going to try it, but then it doesn't get better. And so it's just like it creates this vicious cycle of
Yeah.
not getting
Exactly.
any better.
Yeah, just keep talking until you hit on someone who knows what they're talking about and can guide you in the right direction. Because it's really no one should have to suffer.
No, no, no. I could not agree more. I'm curious, like, I mean, from your perspective, what makes a digital tool like BetterSleep especially valuable for women who are navigating these hormonal sleep changes?
I think one thing that we know that can worsen, I mean, very commonly during perimenopausal insomnia or any sort of sleep issues is that stress and that anxiety. And I think finding ways to help calm the brain, calm the body can really help with calming down at night. So, like I said, landing the plane. So, if you can do things to set the stage to learn how to quiet your brain a little bit easier by putting in the practice, I think they can be really wonderful. And then also, the more that you can do things to help kind of lower that stress, lower that kind of the overall volume that's going on in your brain, it can help with thinking about like we can think about like hormone or hot flashes, any of the vasomotor symptoms that are happening at night, night sweats. We know that by doing meditation, some of those techniques, they can actually help some people with their hot flashes.
Yeah, no, meditation is it's a I've it has helped me tremendously, even when other things haven't. So I guess my last question for you is that, if you've tried everything and you don't know where else to turn, what is your advice for those people who, honestly, this is me. This is
Hmm.
probably a lot of people out there. Like, what is your advice? You've tried everything. You don't know where else to go. What do you do now?
I always question like, what's everything, right? Is it
Fair.
just stuff that you're hearing online? Is it stuff that you're hearing from non specialists? I would say go to someone who is actually a board certified sleep specialist because a lot of
Okay.
times people haven't, or they're going to someone who just like specializes in apnea and they're not working with people who have insomnia more. Like, be a consumer. So when you go to your doctor, ask how often do you treat these problems? How familiar are you with it? And that's when I would say, like, really, like, make sure of the specialty of the person you're sleeping, not just talking to anyone who says, who says that they're a sleep doctor.
Amazing. These are just such wonderful tips. They're practical, simple, and I think easy to integrate into our everyday life. So thank you so much for that. So, at Better Sleep, our mission is to better serve people's needs and ultimately help them sleep better. And that's exactly why we spot topics like this with experts like yourself. And looking ahead, where do you think Better Sleep has the greatest opportunity to grow or innovate to better support women during this phase of life?
I think we innovating is thinking about how the level of demands and stress that are put on women during the day from life around us, how that influences our hormones and how our hormones then influence our sleep at night. I think if we can learn to kind of work on bringing the temperature down a little mentally, it can help physically with some of the changes that are happening, getting us to sleep a little bit better and then helping with the cycle on a 360 or 24-hour day kind of period.
Well, that is my commitment to users because it's just someone who has struggled like this. I just don't want anyone else to struggle. It's like if you can't sleep, you just can't really live. So, thank
Yeah.
you so much, Dr. Shelby. I think for me, this conversation has just been incredibly grounding and clarifying, especially for all of the women like us navigating hormonal changes and just trying to make sense of their sleep. Where can listeners learn more about your work?
So I'm pretty active on Instagram. So you can go to Sleep Doc Shelby on Instagram. You can go to my website. It's Dr. Shelby Harris, DR for doctor. Or you can go to my book, The Women's Guide to Overcoming Insomnia. You'll find a lot of my treatment kind of goals and techniques and tips in there as well.
I've read your book and I found it to be super helpful. So thank you again. And for our listeners, please be sure to follow BetterSleep for more expert guided conversations and tools. With Dr. Harris's insight as part of our advisory team, we're continually evolving to support your sleep with compassion and evidence-based care. Until our next episode, sleep well.